Yo, what's up? What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another video. So today I'll be showing you guys some updates to what, in my opinion, is probably the best longsword build currently, and kind of what has changed based on some research and some stuff I've been looking at, based off of a lot of speedrunners. And what we can glean from watching them is a few different things. So I've got a couple speedrunners here. Let me close these. And what you can see that's kind of common across all of them is they all are using a skill called Counter-Strike. That's one of the commonalities. And another commonality is they all are using, for the most part, most of them are using attack stacking status weapons and not elemental weapons. And the reason for this is, unfortunately, elemental damage in the current state is kind of weak, and it is better off to go for something that is generic like blast or poison, and then use your highly valuable decoration slots for different decorations and not having to waste those slots for stuff like, you know, elemental boost decorations. So what people are using is they're using weapons that have pretty much everything into attack, triple attack on the production bonus, as well as like quadruple attack on the reinforcement bonus. Unfortunately, I got elemental boost here. What you want is sharpness increase, because these weapons don't have enough white sharpness on their own without it. So you want 1 point of sharpness increase and then everything else into attack. And then either using a blast or poison. Probably blast is slightly superior to a poison, but I do not have one. And that is because element is just not great. And the damage that blast does, it does 150. And the damage that poison does is 300 over 20 seconds. It ticks for 15 damage. And I've tested this. Blast, for me, happened after 14 hits. And poison happens after 32 hits. So if you do the math there, that is pretty decent. And the elemental weapons just cannot reach that kind of damage potential because, again, you have to use your decoration slots for stuff to increase the elemental damage. And critical element is especially weak in the current state of the game. So right now, even though it's it might seem like the common sense thing to do to pick a weapon that is strong against a certain monster, actually just making a blast weapon with as much attack as possible ends up being the best way to go about it. So because of that, I've changed my decorations here a bit, and the one that all the speedrunners are using in their weapon is, of course, Master's Touch. And the reason why this is so important is the white sharpness on your weapon, while that is white, it is effectively giving you 10% more damage, which is more than any of the other decorations can give you. So if you have a build that has nearly 100% crit chance, what this does is when you crit, you have 80% chance to not lose sharpness. So that is effectively multiplying your sharpness by an additional 1.8, which is crazy. So it's close to doubling your sharpness as long as you're always critting. And maintaining that white sharpness, especially for speedrunners where they don't have time to sharpen because they're trying to get a good time, is more effective than any other decoration we could be using. So, of course, we're playing a crit build. Might as well go for this. This is a huge, huge decoration to be using. And I'm using, of course, this is like 7 upgrades into attack weapon, putting our raw at 225. Now, going beyond this, another thing that I showed you was they're all using Counter-Strike. And you can get this by using the Counter Charm. And what this skill does is it gives you a massive 25 attack after being knocked back. And what's interesting about this when testing is it actually lasts 45 seconds, which is a crazy long duration. And if you get hit or knocked back during that duration, it will refresh back to 45 seconds. So if you're just a bad player or just like an average player and you get hit a lot, you're actually going to get rewarded for playing badly, and you're going to get a big attack boost for the next 45 seconds. But even if you're a good player and you avoid all damage, there are still ways to trigger this through hyper armor, and that is how the speedrunners trigger it, where if they use their EI Spirit Slash or the thrusting part of their helm breaker, during that short window where they have hyper armor, if they would have gotten hit back or knocked back by a hit, they will gain the Counter-Strike buff. So that's how they're making use of it. But I think regardless of if you're like a god gamer speedrunner or if you're just average player, This is going to have pretty damn good uptime either way, whether you use hyper armor or just get knocked back, either way. And you really can't pass up 25 attack for 45 seconds. It's a lot. And the nice thing is the charm here gives all 3 levels of this skill, which is really good for like slot efficiency. So yeah, that charm is amazing. And then moving on, the last thing to look at here is a lot of them are using, almost all of them actually, are using the corrupted mantle. And what this does is it gives you an extra 30 affinity and 10 attack after attacking a little while with it, at the expense of it dealing damage to your life over time. But what's interesting is the Gormagala set and antivirus together for some reason counteracts this. So I think it's because the corrupted mantle is in effect its own kind of frenzy virus. So by using antivirus and the Gormagala set, when you overcome frenzy, it then cancels out the corrupted mantle dealing damage to you. So actually, with this Gormagala and antivirus setup, there's really very little downsides to using this. It's basically just free damage that you just throw on top, and it lasts a full 2 minutes. It's much better than the other mantles. So this is why speedrunners are using this, because of course their kills are roughly 2 minutes and something extra, like 2 minutes 30 seconds. So it's active for pretty much the whole fight for them. But even for us non-speedrunners, this is just going to speed up our kills and get them closer and closer to that, speedrunner mark, which is the goal. All right, so with this build setup here, we're using the Guardian Ebony helmet still, the Arc Vulcan mail, the Arc Veiled Vambraces, the Gore Coil, and the Gore Greaves, all in beta. And we're using the Counter Charm and the Corrupted Mantle with our attack stacking, either Blast or Poison Weapon, using 2 Critical Jewels and 1 Mastery Jewel. And this is probably just a slightly better setup than in my previous video for getting more damage. Because how strong Counter-Strike is, and fitting that buff into your hunts is going to increase your damage overall by a lot. And then with Master's Touch, you're going to be able to maintain that white sharpness a lot longer without having to sharpen. So that's really, really nice. And we have, of course, the Gormagala set bonus, but no other set bonus. Couldn't quite fit that in, because if we change to the Gormagala gloves here, we not only lose our quick sheath, but we also then have to use the weakness exploit charm to get back to weakness exploit 5, and then we don't have counter strike. So unfortunately, we have to drop that set bonus in favor of the getting to weakness exploit 5 with the counter strike together. So this setup is max damage. We are getting a total of 10 attack from burst, another 10 from adrenaline rush, 25 from counter strike, totaling in 45 extra attack while hunting, and those are usually up most of the time. Counter-Strike is close to 100% uptime. Adrenaline Rush, if you're good at using your Foresight, will be up most of the time. And then, of course, Burst, as long as you're hitting the enemy, it'll pretty much always be active. And this build also fits in 3 points of Max Might and all 5 points of Weakness Exploit, so that we have as much crit as possible. So with Weakness Exploit and Maximum Might, we're already at 60% crit. And then the Mantle, it actually gives another 30, so that puts us at 90, and then we only need 5. We have 5 crit here on the weapon. That puts us at 95 crit against weak points, without even considering having cured our Frenzy yet. If you cure your Frenzy, at that point you get another 25, and now you're at 110, a little over, actually you're at 120, a little overcapped for crit, but that's okay, because you're not always going to be hitting weak points or wounds, and your maximum might not always be 100% active. And the reason why we want to overcap a little bit is because we want to make sure we're not losing any of our sharpness, because we're using Master's Touch, of course. Now, one option you could go for if you want higher damage at the expense of a little bit of affinity, and this is something you would do if you were a speedrunner, is because of once all the stars align and all your buffs are up, because we're overcapped by like 20 crit, what you could do is you could go ahead and drop these 2 Tenderizer Jewels and drop off of those 2 points of Weakness Exploit, and instead go for Agitator. That is a great option. Speedrunners seem to be able to keep the boss in agitated state for like the entire fight. Within the first like 20 seconds, they'll get them enraged, and then they'll kill them before they leave enraged. So very good if you're a speedrunner to be using Agitator. Now, what's interesting about these speedrunners, and this isn't quite similar to my build, but they are using the Fulgur Anjanath set bonus here. And what that does is that gives you an extra stamina bar. As you can see, there's this little stamina bar here in the top left here, and that counts towards how maximum might works. So if you're spending stamina on your extra stamina bar that Fulgur Anjanath set gives you, it's not gonna count towards losing your maximum might. So what this set does is it basically allows you to keep maximum might up all the time, even while using your foresight and using any kind of stamina spending skills. So that is why people are using that. It's very powerful, but of course it comes at the cost of some things. So you're gonna have to lose some other skills to get that. Personally, I find that when I'm actually like, you know, staying still for a while to actually deal some damage, I tend to have full stamina, so I'm not going to worry too much about that. I think this set is still really nice, with the you know, the power of these Van Braces giving 2 points of weakness exploit and the helmet giving 2 points of burst. These are kind of hard to replace. The Fulgur pieces I think have agitator instead, so that's an option if you're a speedrunner and you want to go towards more of a build that does a lot of damage during that window of the boss being in rage. So if I go here to the Fulgur Anjanath, Guardian Fulgur, where is it? You'll see that the helmet and the gloves is what they're using. Yeah, the helmet is 2 points of agitator and 1 level 2 decoration slot, and the gloves is 1 point of maximum might and 2 level 2 decoration slots. So pretty nice. That allows you to pretty much get all your maximum might just from the gloves, and then you could fit in other level 2 decorations. Some people are using Counter-Strike decorations to fit into those slots. Other people have, for example, been using ambush, which is interesting because it only lasts for 30 seconds, but it is a big damage boost. And these speedrunners, of course, are trying to kill the boss as fast as possible. So even if it's giving them only damage for 30 seconds, that is still a good portion of their total fight time. It's like, you know, 20% of their total fight time is those 30 seconds. So that's another option that the speedrunners are using here. As you can see, the ambush decorations. But personally, I think the build I have here is pretty optimal for like anyone who's not a speedrunner. It's pretty close to perfect. So the changes we've made, of course, since the last video are pretty much just fitting in the counter charm and the corrupted mantle. That's basically it. Everything else is pretty much the same. And we've changed out the gloves to, you know, in favor of ones that are giving us enough level 1 decoration slots to use quick sheet. So this build has a decent amount of quality of life. You don't have to sharpen very often because you have Master's Touch, you have quick sheath, of course, and I think that is it. All right, so here now I'll show you guys my personal favorite version, and that is a version that is slightly more comfy than the previous. This version loses out on 1 point of maximum might, but in exchange, we are getting a point in Flayer, a point in Part Breaker, as well as the Guardian Arkfeld set bonus, which allows you to heal when breaking wounds. So this just makes it a little easier to heal, gives you occasionally a few more wounds to use to get to red gauge, as well as Flayer actually does give you about 1% more damage, so it's pretty on par with a lot of other damage increasing skills, so it's not terrible. And the only cost here for all of this is we get 10% less affinity with that last point of maximum might, but that's okay because with the, especially with the corrupted mantle on, we are already overcapped on crit anyway, so we'll be just fine. We'll have just 10% less crit after our mantle is over, and that is kind of the trade-off here. But I personally like this version better just because the option to be able to heal is really nice in fights, and especially if you're going to be putting on your corrupted mantle right away at the beginning of the fight, that is going to be doing a little bit of damage to you over time, and so by the time you start getting your first wounds, you'll be able to heal that right back up. So this is my personal favorite version. Now I will go into the test area and I will show you guys with all the buffs up. This build just does crazy amounts of damage, and that is why it is favored for most of the speedrunners. Alright, so now I'm going to show you guys kind of what I would do in a hunt. I would use all of my buffs here. I'm going to use the Might Seed, the Mega Demon Drug, as well as the Demon Powder. And that's going to increase our attack by a whole lot. And then we're going to go ahead and put our Mantle on and cure our antivirus. As you can see, I'm taking damage from the Mantle, but as soon as I start curing my antivirus, it'll actually stop dealing damage to me. So I broke a wound there, which actually healed me, but once I cure this antivirus, the Mantle will no longer deal any damage to me. It's already stopped because I'm already at the blue state of antivirus. But it's, hold on in a second here. Yeah. All right. Once we're cured, let's see where we're sitting at. Okay, we've cured our antivirus, and we're sitting at 80 affinity, 315 attack. And then let me activate some of our buffs. We've got Counter Strike here. That puts us at 332. And then we've got our... hold on, our Adrenaline Rush. I need to time this a little bit better. It has such a delay on it. I'm not used to this mode. I have to use this mode because it doesn't activate Counter-Strike on the other mode for some reason. All right, so there we are, 350 with our burst active. That's kind of what you can get to here. 350 with our burst active. Crazy numbers here for the Longsword. So yeah, if you see other people, you know, showing off high numbers in their builds and they're sitting at like 280, whatever, well, you can actually get to 350 if you're abusing all the different buff mechanics plus this mantle. So yeah, this is kind of what you want to be doing to get the maximum damage in your hunts. All right, just for fun here, I want to test what a helm breaker can do here with this kind of damage. Wow. 1,984 damage. Jesus Christ. All right, so let me recap my favorite version here of the build and what you're trying to get. So you're trying to go for, ideally, a blast weapon with 7 points into attack, and then the last point, ideally, sharpness. I don't have that, but that's kind of what I'm working towards. And then you want the Guardian Arcveld helmet with... counterattack, at least you need one of those somewhere. And then the options here for this slot is kind of up to you. We have one extra level 1 decoration slot in this build. So you could go growth, which gives you an attack and defense boost after like 10 minutes. That's if you're doing like long double monster hunts or whatever. That might activate. But if you don't really care about that, there are some other options. There's the Medicine Jewel, which actually will increase the amount you heal with the Guardian Arcveld set bonus. That's a little tiny extra heal that you'll get sometimes, kind of nice, but it's not significant. And then there's also stuff like the adaptability one, which I think it just negates the effect of hot and cold weather if you don't want to deal with that. That's another good option if I can find it. There it is, the Adapt Jewel. So those are all pretty viable options. You could also try to like fix some of your resistance issues here with the build. We have -13 Dragon Res. If you wanted to fix that, you could just put a Dragon Res decoration in to get +6, and that makes it not nearly as bad. But yeah, it's kind of up to you what you want to do here with this decoration slot. Moving on, we have the chest is the Arc Vulcan beta. We're using the chain, 1 chain decoration to get our 1 point of burst, and a mighty decoration. Then the Van Braces are the Arcveld, Guardian Arcveld Van Braces with all 3 points into Quick Sheath, all 3 decorations Quick Sheath. The Gore Magala Coil beta with a Tenderizer and a Mighty decoration, and then finally the Gore Magala Graves beta again with the Tenderizer and 2 Sane to get us back up to the 3 points in antivirus here. And then finally we have the amazing Counter Charm, which gives us all 3 points in Counter Strike and our Corrupted Mantle. So yeah, that's the build. All right, guys, thanks for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I hope this build helps you guys just get 1 step closer to speedrunners and get similar results, hopefully. But yeah, anyway, guys, take care, have a good one, and I'll catch you guys next time. Peace.